as and when they come in. So let's now talk about where that particular ill-fated plane was headed. The National Assembly Committee on Transport did meet on Labour and Social Welfare, has accused the top management of Kenya Airways, the Kenya Airports Authority and Cabinet Secretary for Transport, James Macharia, of a casual approach to issues of national importance after they snubbed an invitation to appear before the committee to explain what triggered a strike by Kenya Aviation Workers Union that paralyzed operations at Kenya's airports. The union appeared before the committee and said workers who have resumed work are working under duress and intimidation.
A section of officials from the Kenya Aviation Workers Union appeared before the National Assembly Committee on Labour and said the strike that paralyzed operations at Kenya's airports was caused by the proposal by Kenya Airways to take over operations at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. The unionists say the proposal is shrouded in secrecy and will lead to job losses.
To be very honest, management refused to meet us. We even made an attempt before the strike so that we can solve these issues.
We are very ready, even now, to engage in a return to work formula, but we don't know with whom. If our leaders are in, and they're the same people who are supposed to sign whatever agreement we can agree on.
And those crew are being intimidated by the management because they're saying you're going to be sacked, you're going to be dismissed, they are working in those areas, which I hope KCAA Civil Aviation will be hearing me. They are working under duress because of the thorough and heavy threats which are coming up about dismissal and termination of contract.
The workers say they are subjected to unfair human resource practices such as secure recruitment policy, discriminative remuneration, and an influx of foreigners in Kenya Airways and Kenya Airports Authority in the name of consultants.
We are letting people come to our country and employ cheaper labor.
He introduced something called deed of indemnity, where individual employee is being told to sign a sort of an agreement that you will be given this money or this increment, and you will never claim anything from any other CBA going backwards.
The committee censured Cabinet Secretary James Macharia for snubbing it.
We invited KAA, we invited KQ, we invited the ministry. All of them brought back saying we rescheduled this meeting. That in itself shows how casual these people handled this conflict. The other issue, court ruled in 5th of February, asking the Minister Labour to appoint conciliators to this particular conflict. They waited up to when the strike was on, is when they named the 3 mediators to this particular conflict.
Members also asked the Ministry of Transport, KAA, KQ, and the union to immediately resume genuine dialogue under the umbrella of the conciliation mechanism initiated by the CS Labour Ukur Yatani. Inside the National Assembly chambers, a preliminary report by the Public Investments Committee seeking Parliament approval to stop the planned takeover of JKIA by Kenya Airways generated heated debate.
As we speak, there was a strike at JKIA. What is the cause of that strike? Mr. Speaker, the cause of that strike is about the issue of the takeover between KQ and KAA.
If JKIA is the source of revenue of KAA, where 83% of the revenue comes from JKIA, if the process is rushed by maybe a person who is chair to both sides, definitely there is something interesting.
I therefore find it strange, Mr. Speaker, that we are discussing an issue, or you are just about to make a decision on an issue that has not been conceived. It's still at the conception stage.
Are we gagging ourselves? And if we are, what are the reasons? And that's where I concur with Honorable Bunyasi. What are we scared of? What are we scared of? Is there something that's scaring us that we can now gag ourselves so that we end up not actually debating these matters?
Majority Whip, I challenge him to actually come here and tell us the date at which we invited Kenya Airways. I challenge him.
Now,
with facts, Mr. Speaker. This is a house of record. Committees are recorded with handsets.
The Speaker will make a ruling next week on which committee should be given a go-ahead to investigate the highly controversial merger between Kenya Airways and Kenya Airports Authority. Patrick Amimo, KTN News.
All right, as we get into this very important discussion, just an update of breaking news coming from the south of Ethiopia. Just around an hour ago, a plane crash. A plane has crashed in the near the southern town of Bishoftu. That is flight ET-302. There was a Boeing 737-800 MAX that just left the Ethiopian capital Addis Ababa, the Bola International Airport, headed for the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport here in Nairobi, left at 8:38 a.m. local time, disappeared from the radar 6 minutes later at 8:44 a.m. The Ethiopian Airlines saying search and operation is already underway. No more information coming of that, but we know that search and rescue operation is currently underway near Bishoftu, a town in the south of the country. We don't have much more detail, but that's the Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy did tweets condoling with the families of the passengers and crew. We understand from the Ethiopian Airlines a statement they released a short while ago that 149 passengers were on board that ill-fated plane and 8 crew as well. We also understand that it was a brand new plane delivered 4 months ago. We are still trying to get some more details on this breaking news, horrific news coming from Ethiopia. Not clear how many Kenyans, if any, were on board that plane. So horrific breaking news coming from the south of Ethiopia. Flight ET-302 has crashed near the southern town of Bishoftu. Search and rescue operation underway. Ethiopian Airlines saying they are establishing an information center to tell us more about this. So stay with KTN News for the very latest as and when we receive the information from Ethiopia. Now, gentlemen, we're talking about the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport now. A very closely related story to that horrific news story developing in Ethiopia. Kenya Airways, that deal, that information came from that special report by the cabinet, I understand, to try and help Kenya Airways out of its troubles. Let me begin with you, Dismas. Does it make any sense for you, for Kenya Airways? Many Kenyans have been saying it doesn't make sense for Kenya Airways, with its troubles that it has been, 220 billion debts, to manage Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. Does it make sense for you?
Well, I wish I had access to that cabinet paper that came up with the proposals, but my basic understanding of aviation is let Kenya Airports Authority do their core business of managing airports, and let Kenya Airways do its core business of ferrying passengers and cargo. Full stop. There are no two ways about it. You are not going to have KAA subsidize Kenya Airways. And when you look at the numbers at Kenya Airways, the top line is solid. They carry passengers, they ferry cargo, and they're paid for it. So any rational man, somebody who has a basic understanding of economics and accounting, when you look at the numbers, you come to one conclusion, that it's horrible leadership at Kenya Airways. That's the reason why they're making losses. That's the reason why they don't know how to fly. That's the reason why they want to go to Kenya Airports Authority. How can you have an airport subsidizing an airline? How does it work? It doesn't work. That is logics which is upside down. So the way to make progress, get a solid leadership at Kenya Airways, overhaul the leadership. I mean, the only person who seems to be knowing where Kenya Airways is going is Michael Joseph. All the guys who are serving under him, they're flying radarless. They don't know where they're going. So give Michael Joseph a solid team that he can work with. And then when you come to the dates, look at a way of restructuring it. We've got so many transaction advisors. People can come on board and assist you to manage that dates. Let's look at getting another strategic investor. You've got KLM, but you can look at Emirates, you can look at Qatar, and you manage it. And we are told that the reason why KAA must now be part of KQ is because Nairobi is a strategic hub that you can't afford to lose the opportunity to other countries. America's got so many hubs. Show me a national carrier in America. Nigeria is a hub in West Africa. They don't have a national airline. So let's just go back to the basics and manage Kenya Airways.
All right.
And for some reason, if we still say that we need to have Nairobi as a hub, which we must because of our national interest,
yes,
then, let's make it lucrative for Emirates.
Okay.
Right now, we've given some airlines international landing rights in Mombasa, in Kisumu. So at some stage, you actually begin to wonder whether the ministry responsible for aviation in Kenya has got KQ interest at heart.
Marc Muchacha, there's a piece of information that many people think changes the whole conversation. That around 60% of business to JKIA or JKIA comes from KQ. So is it imperative, to have KQ back on its feet?
First, Ben, allow me to give some background. First, I'm one of those Kenyans who, on more than one occasion, have paid more money just so I can fly my national carrier. That's how patriotic I am. That's one. Two, I'm one of those Kenyans who was stuck at the airport from 9 a.m. all the way to 4:30 when my flight was finally boarding to where I was going on Wednesday. So I have experienced that. Three, I had the privilege of having a short chat with the CEO of Kenya Airways, and in those short 4-5 minutes, the thing that I picked that he told me to my face is that we don't need to explain what we're doing with Kenyans because Kenyans are not his core customers. Let me remind him that 44 million of us may not fly, but the 44 million of us own that airport. We are the owners of that airport. So with that reminder, he then owes this country an explanation. And that then brings me to the core point. The point is that these guys want us to believe that Kenya Airways will do a better job with the airport without telling us what the better job is. There is no one who's explained to us what the better job is. Will there be more flowers? Will the toilets finally be clean? Will the Wi-Fi finally work? What is the question? Number two, why do we want KQ to make more profit at the chagrin and the cost of the taxpayer? It is a private company. It is a private entity. It is like you telling me that I should wish Apple computers all the best in Kenya while they're making profits for some Americans. Let's be very clear. The problem is that number one, they've not communicated, and number two, whatever it is they want to do is not clear. Number three, there is the idea that is floating around that because KQ is the biggest contributor to the revenues at the airport, then KQ should be given control. That is not necessarily true. If KQ wants to have a better deal, then the logical thing to do is go to KAA like you would go to any supplier and tell them, listen, could you reduce my landing tariffs? Could you reduce the cost at which you bring the stairs to the plane? Could you reduce my parking fees? That is the kind of negotiation we're willing to have. And as patriotic Kenyans, by the way, Kenya Airways, we will support you. But when you try to do a shoddy deal using a company that has been broke, listen, let's just be honest. If I own a Duka and you own a Duka and my Duka is in losses, who will take care of who? In fact, if this idea came from KAA saying that, listen, we've done a very good job in making a profit, please allow us to take over KQ, that is a conversation we're willing to have. But you cannot be making losses hand over fist and then want to take over KAA without even giving a reason, and you want to force it down our throats.
So the government is currently the majority shareholder in KQ with a 48.9% stake. Herman, there's, according to this special memorandum that has been approved by cabinet, is that what a lot of people seem to be having a problem with is who wants to run this. Specifically, there are some things being called SPVs, special purpose vehicles, whose ownership is very questionable. We have heard CBA being mentioned in that. Do you read malice in this? Is this proper?
It's not for me to read malice or to say there is. But allow me to say there's so much I don't know.
Yeah.
A lot of what is flying around are things we don't know that they are true. Some of them, they are weird if they were to be true. But in the absence of that firm knowledge, which I don't have, I don't want to speculate. But I know one or two things. One, that Kenya Airways is ailing and it needs a bailout. The government of Kenya has done this in the past.
Yes.
just like it has done, for example, with Uchumi. There's nothing wrong because the airline, even if we don't have the majority share, it gives us some sense of pride. They say it's the pride of Africa, and it's also the pride of Kenyans. There's nothing wrong with that, and we can bail it out. The only problem I have is when we are bailing out Kenya Airways, the people who messed, the Naikunis and the rest of those people, if they are in committee, wanakula maharage, we can bail out Kenya Airways, including this current deal with the rider that who are the people going to help KQ turn around even as it takes over KAA. I have no problem with it. For your information, Mark, this arrangement works elsewhere in the world where there are airlines. I don't have the details.
I'm aware.
There are airlines that run
Ethiopian, Lebanon, Qatar, Emirates.
So they work. The argument, but I know the argument that those airlines are wholly government owned and so on and so forth. But these are just, you see what I'm saying is the principle is it can work, it works elsewhere. We can bail out Kenya Airways, but when the crooks who have stolen are in jail. Two, when these busybodies, these foreigners, crooks, I would even call them, you mean there are no Kenyans who can run Kenya Airways? You read the names of who is it's really an embarrassment to me that all the people messing are not even Kenyans.
Okay.
And you look at them, they are not Kenyans. What I'm saying is we can bail out Kenya Airways, even if it means them taking over KAA. Once we have all the details, which I have said I don't have, it's okay. But those who have stolen, messed the airline should be in jail, especially those who have taken that bit of the money.
Then we talk about bailing them. All right. Kipchumba, have the final say on this. KQ was once very profitable. We understand they made some mistakes. The market has changed. They are competing with Qatar and Fly Emirates and Ethiopian Airlines. Do you think we are trying to throw good money at bad money?
Ben, my first analogy of the whole KQ KA thing is this. There is a lot of pride in every family owning a car in this nation. But there is no logic in a family selling their land to service the car. There is no logic. And we must tell whoever, whether it is Macharia, the cabinet secretary, that we are not going to sell our family land to manage the vehicle. Having said that, I think KQ is a final product of bad and the wrong strategic decisions that have been made over time. Look at it this way, for us, those of us who have the small history about what happened in KQ. In 2004, for example, what was the reason behind KQ shutting down Ken Cargo, which was making 175% profit and outsourcing the same service? That is where we need to start. Done from somewhere. The other thing is this: how do you go into a joint venture? You cannot have a joint venture of a mama mboga and a supermarket. Of course, the odds are against the mama mboga. How did we go into a joint venture with KLM, which when you look at it on paper, we have 30 planes, KLM has 130. And when you look at the routes and the fleeting and all those things, it is them who benefit. Look again the other joint venture we had with the Northwest Airlines. Northwest has 430 airlines. They are benefiting from us mopping up passengers for them to collect. But after having all those things, we have been bailing out KQ without asking the questions Manyora is asking. Where is this money going to? After all that, in 2017, there was the agreement now to go to turn credit into equity. And we turned, and this KQ Lenders Company was formed. What is very questionable is the kind of transparency that is within the transactions happening in Kenya Airways. Kenya Airways is partly owned by Kenyans. They are supposed to be above board transactions. How do you have KQ Lenders is a company owned by Kenyan bankers? Well, how is it managed by a company that is an offshore company registered in Mauritius, which is known as Minerva Fiduciary? A company that was named in the Panama Papers of doing other things. The other thing that we need to question.
Yes, you need to wind up.
Yes, as we talk about the helping KQ come out. Some few years ago when Naikuni was there was this thing of Project Mawingu. Project Mawingu did not take place because of wrong decisions that were made. You brought on board companies like Samburu Limited and Amboseli Limited. Also again, companies which are registered in Cayman Islands. And when we talk of things like Cayman and Mauritius, these are scandalous people we are engaging, and we cannot engage a strategic resource of the country, which has 5% of our national GDP, to people who are faceless.
Okay. But Kitili, half a second, please. I think we cannot leave this KQ debate without advising, in fact, warning CS Macharia not to call our young men thugs and criminals who are engaged in very genuine trade union disputes. So they are bona fide officials of a trade union.
And they're asking bona fide
questions. Honestly, we cannot lock up young men for such a long time. When we process bail terms for people who have stolen billions of shillings in a matter of hours,
just hold that thought. Let's come back to wind up on that. We're coming back to wind up on that. You're watching Sunday edition here on KTN News. We're talking about the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport issue, KQ. That proposal, a special memorandum that we understand has been approved by Cabinet to have KQ, which has been posting losses, run the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. We have more on that. When we come back, remember we are following that up on that breaking news coming from Ethiopia, where Ethiopian Airlines has confirmed that one of its passenger jets has been involved in a crash this morning, a Boeing 737-800 MAX flight ET302, which left the Bole International Airport in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia this morning, 8:38 a.m. local time.